All right, so you may have heard the old saying in real estate, the backbone of real estate is wholesaling, finding a property at a massive discount and then selling that property for a profit. In this video, I'm gonna talk to you about how do you become a real estate wholesaler. All right, so I got multiple steps of how to get started as a real estate wholesaler and couple little stories about me getting started and how I kept going forward. All right, so it's 2013 and I'm going to a private college and I also had a rental house and I had some bills stacking up on me. And I always heard like wholesaling, it doesn't take any money to get started. And I had rental properties already. Actually, no, three rentals properties at this time, and I had just bought that third one, and I was kind of like a little over leveraged. My American Express was maxed out, my Home Depot was maxed out, and I had to pay for 3 college courses because I was still in the Army at this time, and they had just sent me to college, and things were stacking up, bills were stacking up, and I thought that I could just wholesale houses with little money, little credit, just like they always say, hey, it's the lowest barrier of entry. Get started in wholesaling. So what did I do? I went to Propstream, and you can get the access to Propstream, a 7-day free trial by going to landsharkslist.com. That's landsharkslist.com. And you can get access to the same list that I got access to. I looked for the people that were behind on their mortgage payments. They call this the Notice of Default or NOD list. Some states call it lis pendens, or they're just not paying their mortgage payment or they're in pre-foreclosure. So I printed out a list of 20 properties that were not paying their mortgage, and I physically drove to each one of these properties and knocked on the door. And if they didn't answer the door, I would leave a little sticky note saying, hey, it's Brent, I'd like to buy your house, please call me. And out of those 20 notes I left, someone actually called me. And he was just like so over it. He was tired of owning this house. He was behind on his mortgage. He hadn't paid in a long time. And he was 7 days from getting kicked out of this house. So I actually drove back there that night and we were talking for a while. I was there for probably like an hour or so. And I was like, look, it sounds like you got about 7 days. What's the least you'll take for the house? He didn't exactly know. He had no clue what he wanted. Like he was so indecisive. He had his head in the sand. He was like waiting for a miracle to happen. And I said, would you take what you owed for the house? And I don't know where that came from. I don't know where I got the strength to ask. And I will tell you what, he said yes. So I pulled out a purchase agreement. We filled it out together. He actually owed a little over $150,000 on the house. The house was worth almost $200,000. So I got the property under contract for like $151 or so and some change. And then I literally went home that night and put it on Craigslist and I advertised. I took pictures. I advertised the contract because I was assigning this contract. This is what wholesale real estate investors do. They assign their contract. They transfer that contract. I find a cash buyer that's willing to pay me $160 for the contract I have for $150. So I put it on Craigslist. I put the pictures. I talked about the house. I talked about me having it under contract for $150 and I'm looking for $160. I had a buyer almost the next day. This woman that actually called me, she wasn't the buyer. She owned a title company, but she knew of a guy looking for 4-bedroom houses just like I had, and she had just closed a deal with him like that day before. So I said, sure, let's do it. Let's get Lou. Lou was the buyer. He went and checked out the house. He was happy about it. And mind you, we only have about 6 days at this point until this guy's kicked out on the street. So Lou had to come up with $160,000 cash. So we got the deal to the title company. The title agent that found it, she had another closing for herself, and Lou had another 4-bedroom house, and everyone was happy. Well, it's now the day of closing. And come to find out, the seller hadn't packed up anything. So I ended up having to scramble at the last minute. I went on Craigslist once again. I hired like 6 or 8 people to help me move this guy out of his house. We went to closing and I made a little over $4,500 net profit on that deal after I gave some money back to the seller so he can get into a home. I had to pay the moving guys and it all worked out. Well, guess what? This deal brought me a second deal. The second deal came off of MLS. Another wholesaler out there just getting started that didn't have a cash buyers list. And she called me. She said, hey, Brent, I saw the house that you had in Palm Bay. I have one in Sebastian. Sebastian is just the next town over to the south. And I said, great. I got multiple buyers, which was Lou and title company owner, because she also, her name is Renee. She also buys rental properties. So I said, yeah, sure. I've got multiple buyers, meaning 2. And she said, great. Here's the property. Here's the contract. We literally got Renee to buy that house. She was the one that owned the title company, and we had $9,000. So basically we had it under contract for $140 and the other wholesaler had it under contract for 140. I found the buyer for 149. Me and Tony, which was the other wholesaler, we split $9,000. So we both had $4,500 each. And from that one deal, by going and door knocking those 20 doors, it actually made me a total of $9,000 net profit in about a period of 30 days. So that's how you become a brand new real estate wholesaler right off the bat. All right, next, let's talk about practical ways to keep your wholesaling business going. I now no longer door knock. I probably should have hired someone to keep doing that for me because it obviously worked, but now I love to mail lists. So the first list I'm gonna recommend mailing is the tax delinquent list. How do you find this list? You go to the county treasurer's office and ask for a list of people that are behind on their taxes, not paying their property taxes. And you get this list, and then you mail this list a postcard. This postcard needs to say something to the tune of, hey, my name's Brent and I buy houses. If you're interested in an all cash fair offer, give me a call or text me. And I'm gonna give you this exact postcard that I used at the end of this video, but you gotta stick with me. I've got multiple steps to becoming a real estate wholesaler. All right, my next list I'm gonna talk to you about. So the first list I gave you was a notice of default. The second was the tax delinquent. The third is the code violation list. This is a list of properties that are violations, some type of building code, either high weeds or graffiti or inhabitable properties. Sometimes these things are condemned. I love getting this list and mailing this list, that postcard that I just mentioned, because who would be more motivated than someone that's got a rundown, junky old house? And a lot of times it's not because the seller just wanted it to become rundown. Sometimes it's a second property, or they inherited it, or they just don't have the means or the resources to fix it. That's where it comes to an investor like us getting it under contract and finding someone that's gonna buy that contract from us, or we buy it and then fix it up, put it on the MLS. There's multiple ways to do that. But how do you get that code violation list? There's something called the Open Records Act. In Colorado, it's called CORA, Colorado Open Records Act. You actually have to go and request it from the county. One place to start with is the code violation office. Ask how to get a list of the high weeds in the county, or the graffiti, or the condemned on the code violation list. This is the easiest way to get started and start mailing these people an offer or a letter saying, hey, I'd like to buy your house. Call me if you're interested in a fair cash, no hassle offer. Text me too if you want. All right, next, you need to start thinking about building your cash buyers list. I talked about Lou and Renee, right? They were the first couple people in my cash buyers. Ultimately, the more deals you do, the more cash buyers you're gonna get. Where do you find these cash buyers? You can find them at foreclosure auctions. You know, in my county, the foreclosure auction happens every single Wednesday at 10 a.m. And another thing I like to do is I like to bring a flyer of the house I have under contract that I'm gonna be showing as an inspection period at 11 a.m. So after they leave that bloodbath, like slaughterhouse of the foreclosure auction, they can come walk through my property for the next 2 hours and make an actual calculated bid. So that's one way I get cash buyers right there. Another way is, you know, I like to meet one or two people at each one of those auctions. Here's a quick tip though. Once that auction starts, you don't talk, because you will get yelled at in there if you're trying to make conversation, because that's go time. Like money's flying around, you name it. It's like, it's crazy going on there. So foreclosure auctions. Another way is I recommend a Carrot site. I use, every time I have a property under contract, I use Carrot to help me blast that out to my cash buyers. And sometimes if John knows that Bill is interested in that area or interested in 2-bedroom, 1 baths, John will forward my email to Bill, and then he comes to my Carrot website. Go to carrot.com, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. He'll come to my Carrot website and to see that discount property that I have. And if you want an example of my Carrot website, you can go to discountpropertiescoloradosprings.com, discountpropertiescoloradosprings.com. You're gonna have to fill in your name and your email if you wanna see the property list that I have, but just be expecting to get emails from me with my discount properties. All right, so I got some high-level tips of how to get in front of your cash buyers, how to show them your deal that you want them to buy. But before I do that, I want you to go ahead and like this video. Click that like button. This is your payment for starting a wholesaling business. It's gonna bring you good luck. All right, so let's talk about how to get in front of the cash buyers. You know, MailChimp is a great way. I love to send an email with all the information of this property that I want my cash buyer to buy. I am assigning my contract to a cash buyer. They're gonna purchase my contract. I've got it under contract for $150. I want them to buy it for $160. The house is worth $200. That's gonna give me a quick $10,000 bump in pay for doing a little bit of work, but I wanna make it like I'm passing this house like a silver platter. I wanna have all the details, how big the house is, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, when when the furnace was checked, when the furnace was serviced, when the water heater was replaced, all the information I can possibly give them. And I want to disclose everything to this cash buyer, because if I know about a defect, I want to tell them about it. I want them to come back and buy more from me. The next is sending a text message. Everyone is answering their text message. Most people see a text message within like 2 minutes of you sending it to their phone, not emails. Emails aren't the same way unless they're coming to their phone automatically, but text messages are getting looked at. So I recommend using like callfire.com or justcall.com for that. But these are ways I get in front of my cash buyers. But let me give you a quick tip. You want to get explicit permission to be texting and emailing these people, because you don't want to text or email somebody that doesn't want you to text or email. So you got to give them the chance to unsubscribe or to reply stop to get off your list. And once they do that, take them off forever. All right, so you got your cash buyer, they want to buy the house. Next, you need to assign that contract. And I'm going to give you the exact agreement that I use to assign my contracts. But basically what that is, it's an assignment agreement. I'm going to sell my $150,000 contract to Bill, and Bill's gonna pay me $10,000 for it. So technically Bill's paying $160,000 for that house. So Bill is gonna sign an assignment agreement saying that he's gonna pay Brent $10,000 for that agreement of 150. So totally he's paying 160. So I promise you lots of free gifts here. I'm gonna give you the contract that I use that's assignable. I'm gonna give you my assignment agreement that I use, and I'm also gonna give you the exact postcard that I send out. But guys, you got to promise me that you're gonna have a real estate attorney check this stuff. I don't want to be giving you a contract or a purchase agreement that doesn't work across state lines. So the first one is my purchase agreement. That's my assignable purchase agreement. And that is by going to thelandsharks.com/contract. The link is below in the description as well, but that's thelandsharks.com/contract. Let an attorney check this out. Let a real estate attorney check this out. That way it works in your state. They might have to do a couple of tweaks. Next is that postcard that I talked to you about. The postcard, that's thelandsharks.com/postcard. This is the exact postcard that I used to send out to homeowners, to sellers, to people on the code violation list, the tax delinquent list, you name it. And then finally, that assignment agreement. This is where Bill is gonna pay me $10,000 for my purchase agreement that's assignable to Bill, and that is thelandsharks.com/assign. Thelandsharks.com/assign, ASSIGN, and also the link is below in the description.